It's the NUKA-COLA Lounge, presented by the Triple S League.
NUKA-COLA was a popular drink in the pre-war era, and still is today.
Hey everybody, welcome to the NUKA-COLA Lounge podcast, or the Triple S podcast from the NUKA-COLA Lounge, or one of those things. My name is Ashenity, and I'm here as always with Subsidian.
Hello.
And we've got Jamie Catalyst with us today. How you doing, Jamie?
I have a cape made of covers.
What?
I said I have a cape made of covers.
How is that an answer to...
I don't know.
Are we speaking the same language here?
It just
I'm
makes
confused.
me happy.
Well, so you're happy because you have a cape made of covers.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, pushed it a little late because we wanted Jamie to join us to talk about Andromeda content. Mass Effect Andromeda is coming up in March, which we're all very excited about, and I'm especially excited about now that I've begun playing. I've actually played Mass Effect for the first time. Started back in December. But, yeah, before we get into that, I just want to let you know, Awesome Games Done Quick is going on right now. So if you go over to gamesdonequick.com, or twitch.tv/gamesdonequick, you can. It's a speedrun marathon running all week up until Saturday night. Started this past Sunday, and they're raising money in support of the Prevent Cancer Foundation. And I just this isn't a paid plug or anything. I just love this. I love this organization. I love what they do. I watch it as much as I can whenever it's live. And if you happen to be listening to this after the fact, everything's archived on Twitter or on YouTube. And there's some fun speedruns that I've been watching. I watched Halo 2 yesterday. Oh man, Sybe. You should have seen, you should go watch that one.
I've seen a lot of Halo 2 quick runs and stuff like that. And, it's surprising how many of the older games that I used to spend just weeks and weeks on are oh hey yeah, I can finish that in 40 minutes, or hey yeah, I can finish that in 15 minutes.
Well, he does it in it's under 2 hours. Can't remember exactly how long. On legendary, freaking legendary difficulty, single player, and just breezing through it like it's nothing and making it look easy. And they do this awesome trick where they use.
Well, to be fair, the difficulty in 1 and 2 was not that hard. The legendary difficulty was not as. Once you got used to it, it was oh man, I could pretty much kill everything in one shot. Haha.
I got halfway through the game on legendary. I can't remember which level, but I could not pass it on legendary. I did beat the game on the difficulty below legendary. But anyway, this guy was awesome, and there was other. So you'll see at Games Done Quick, you'll see everything from your classic Nintendo titles to new games, old games, every kind of game you can think of that people are speedrunning. And I just finished one up called Cool World, which I have no idea what the hell it was, but the guy was swinging from a spider's butt as it was climbing up a building. So if anyone knows what that's about, I don't know. Maybe you can shed some light on it. But anyway,
one of my favorite games that I used to play, and you used to think usually it was around about 120 hours before I finished it. When I would play it on hard and modded and all this kind of crazy stuff. Did that on Jagged Alliance 2. And then I saw somebody beat the game in 5 minutes, and I was like, well, that just takes all the fun out of it.
I think I've seen that one. Yeah, they take 2 characters, and they push right for the main boss.
Just walk in, use a couple of rocket launchers that they pick up along the way, blow a couple holes in a couple buildings, and then one shot to the head. And I'm like, wow, if we could only do this for half of the dictators in the world. Seriously, we just make life so much easier, I'm assuming.
Well, when you've got infinite saves and reloads and attempts at something, you can get pretty efficient at it. Too bad real life doesn't work that way. But
yeah, and the army does stand down immediately upon the boss's death. So I'm pretty sure that wouldn't happen in real life. Pretty sure you'd have some feelings. Those feels being kind of bad.
You saying real life is more complicated than video games?
Just a little bit.
That might be why we all enjoy video games so much.
This coming from a person who likes the easy way of looting in RPG games, including Mass Effect, and you're
whatever.
You're all disappointed that you don't have a one-click button to loot everything, and not a one-click button. It just doesn't loot automatically as you're just walking around killing things, like you're picking up things with your mind.
You're talking about Andromeda now.
No,
yes.
I'm talking about Mass Effect. Well, and Andromeda.
Yeah.
And Jamie, tell him why he's wrong when it comes to going to each body and rummaging through it is the best way to go.
Because it's more personal. It's just like, you're dead. I killed you. Here's my hands. They're in your pants. I have all your stuff now.
That's exactly right.
I'm not touching anything else in your pants though, because you're dead, and that's wrong.
You've just made me appreciate the way the original Mass Effect did it even more. Where you just kill everybody, and automatically everything they were carrying is in your inventory, and you didn't have to stick your hands in anybody's anything.
No dead pants for you.
No dead pants for me. I am anti-dead guy pants. Or dead girl pants, or whoever.
Anti-dead pants.
Well, most of the... You know what? Most of the enemies that I kill now, anyway, just dissolve into a green goop, because I've got these ammo mods on my guns. What are they called? Polonium rounds or something?
Yeah.
Sounds close. It's been a while.
Basically, yeah.
You know they do that for a reason. They have the body melting physics. That's a very popular thing for developers because it saves them a lot of resources on like body physics and piling of the dead bodies, and it just makes things easier.
Which is
like,
too
so many
bad.
different ways.
Because there's an art to piling dead bodies in just a perfect way.
Yes,
I so
absolutely.
enjoy doing it.
This is what we have Skyrim and Fallout for. Is like,
actually,
if I couldn't make a pile of dead bodies in Fallout, I don't know what I'd do.
Dishonored 2 did it pretty well too. I don't know if you've done that, Ash, but I piled a stack of dead bodies a mile high whenever I was first playing Dishonored 2, because I couldn't do it in the other one because they would disappear. So it's just like, yes, finally. I don't know. It's good.
Am I the only person here who's not a sociopath? Just checking.
It's very possible. It's very possible. I don't know. Anyways.
Speaking of Halo, we'll get on to... Sorry, I know you want to talk about Andromeda, but I just saw something today about... Halo was apparently... there was a Mega Bloks Halo game in development. I watched footage, and this is a few years old now, but...
I think I remember hearing about that.
It looks so dumb. I'm sorry, but...
Well, yeah. I mean, Mega Bloks for starters, obviously.
But apparently there are going to be actual Mega Bloks Halo sets. So they're going... I guess they've learned from Lego about this whole benefit of licensing everything. But of course, everything Mega Bloks is ripped off of Lego, so... I guess that's the way it goes.
That's what happens when you don't protect your trademark. Before we get too far into Andromeda, we've got some more sad news. This is horribly sad news. Scalebound has been pretty much
canceled. I heard about that.
Canceled, and or like I don't know if they like completely try to like remove them from the universe. Like it's like, hey, that game we talked about, we don't know what you're talking about. We have no videos on this anymore. We have no articles on this anymore. Everybody that's been involved in the project has either been fired, canned, or
murdered,
have disappeared mysteriously from international overseas flights. On top of that, this is like on top of that, we've also had a couple of delays for Final Fantasy, the remake for number 7, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
And who knew it? Apparently Kingdom Hearts has been delayed yet again. Oh my goodness, didn't see that one coming. Holy crap.
It's almost like Half-Life 3 is never going to exist. It's just, it's expected stuff.
So the other game that has been canceled horribly this last week, and I saw this coming about...
It wasn't just canceled, it was canceled horribly.
About 2 years ago, I knew this was coming this direction when Sony sold the rights to the game to a Russian hard asset company. Whenever you sell anything to a hard asset company, let alone a Russian one, they're not going to care about the product. Like, they're not going to care about, like, they don't care about anything that they work with. Like, their workforce is expendable, the locations of their stuff is expendable, their equipment is expendable. They don't care. All they care about is seeing a high profit value, and they could, give two hoots about the damage to the ecosystem or to the, like, just in general. Most hard asset firms are kind of like this. I mean, it's just kind of in their blood, so to speak. And when they bought out EverQuest Next and EverQuest Landmark, I mean, the game was already like, we've got some really good ideas. We just need to go in this direction, but we don't need any like major cutbacks. And then they got cutbacks, and then more cutbacks, and then they got wedged into a corner, and then they couldn't, work off their dream, and then things kept on getting worse, and then the company got sold, and then got sold to this hard asset company, and then of course at the moment that happened, I said we're never going to see Next come out, and we're never going to see an MMO that moves fluidly with the world changes with the slightest things. Like, you go to one place 1 year, and it's a valley, and then you come by there a couple months later, and somebody's flooded the valley with a lake, and now it's a lake. And you're not going to see that anymore, because unfortunately some eggheads in companies thought it would be a good idea to like say, oh, no, we don't want to encourage dreaming and like growing of ideas. Why would we want to do that? That's ridiculous. Just keep making us money with that wonderful MMO based on the DC universe, because that thing's going to last forever, right? Right? So yeah, apparently DC universe not making too much money in the game world. So as far as like MMOs go, it's in a really bad moment and bad place right now. There's been no really good, earth-shakingly good titles come out. Everybody seems to be intent on just rehashing old things. Funny enough, we do have more MMOs today than at any time in history. Not just like games that are like, what you might call a WoW clone, but like so many games that we play are interconnected to everybody who plays them. Like all the phone games, you can check your scores, you can team up with people through a variety of ways and means and stuff like that. And so the MMOs have kind of as a specific genre have kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. But the core concept of like everybody playing together. I mean, look at Skylar got in big trouble for saying this, but he said Pokemon Go is an MMO. Well, it is an MMO. There's multi-millions of people playing it at the same time, and you can send messages and winky faces, and I don't know for certain if you do that, but I mean, it's like you're all there. You can add friends. You team up, right? There's teams. I haven't touched it, but there's this whole multiplayer component to it. But because it's not like kind of in your face, old school MMO, a lot of people are like, that's not an MMO.
Sure. Well, it's a different kind of MMO.
Right?
It's not like,
yeah,
your Warcraft style MMO. It's not.
And I did call this like 15 years ago. I said, well, no, most games are going to go towards this system of being open and connecting their users to each other. Jamie, have you played any like traditional style MMOs like Blood of Soul or with some of the new ones that have come out, Black Desert, some of the older ones?
Due to the lack of decent internet, no, I have not, although there is one that somebody recommended to me that I can't remember the name of, Winter Quest or something. I also used to play RuneScape a long time ago.
Yeah, RuneScape is another great example. Like, these are games that, like, if you're a hardcore gamer, like, these are pinnacles of the genres and deserve a modern, at least a little bit of respect. But
now, a couple weeks ago, or a few weeks ago on the podcast, we talked about the future of online gaming and how Google is working with somebody. I can't remember the company's name. But anyway, if anyone's interested in that, you can find it in our video archives. It's a podcast we did a few weeks ago about the cloud gaming in the future and having these gaming worlds rather than just sitting on a server somewhere that has certain limitations as all servers do. But to have these worlds existing in the cloud, where they can have exponentially more processing power and do a whole heck of a lot more with it. Do you think that's going to change things for the better if they move in that direction?
Well, the one thing that EverQuest was bringing was this like butterfly effect world. And if you were to incorporate this system, then yes, very much. When you have a world that's constantly evolving and constantly changing, if you manage to connect people emotionally with that world and that they care about what happens to it and the progress and the change is at a pace that the vast majority of people can keep up with, and kind of like help see or help influence or help experience, then we might see a massive resurgence, because that's a very unique, well-connected thing. So, I mean, the multiplayer aspect of games is just going to get bigger and bigger. And this brings us back to our main talking point this week is Mass Effect Andromeda. And there's going to be a big multiplayer component to it, and they are working very hard to make it really, really good. The last Dragon Age's multiplayer was not as good, I feel, as Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. So hopefully we will see Mass Effect Andromeda. Hopefully we will see that this starts to move in the direction of a really, really like good addictive gameplay. So we're hopefully going to see that.
So what can we expect from the multiplayer in Andromeda?
So the multiplayer is going to be it hasn't been officially shown yet, so we can't say for 100% positive, but we know it's going to be similar to what they've done in the past, but with some massive improvements that the community has been kind of begging for, and we're really going to see that in this one. I feel that we're going to really see some really amazing high-end new functionality and new game modes, game types, maybe even some PvP that we'll see in the multiplayer. So definitely newer, fresher, better combat that's going to be a lot more like, kind of like the Halo experience than the old Mass Effect 3 experience, because there was some pretty major issues with the game. Like you couldn't jump, right? So that's kind of a crappy thing to have in a shooter game, is no ability to jump and no ability to like the combat itself is kind of clunky. And so thankfully we're going to be getting away from that with this new engine. So I think it'll be really, really good. So I'm really looking forward to it. I have very high hopes for the new gameplay that we will see, and hopefully see a new multiplayer trailer come out here in a couple of weeks.
That'll be good. And we saw a new Andromeda trailer that was released at the Consumer Electronics Show, of all places. Although I guess that's not uncommon, but anyway, so CES, a new trailer for Mass Effect Andromeda, and it didn't have a ton of content in it. It had a nice demo of some of the combat, but we also got to see some of the menu screens that contained some interesting information. So I know Jamie took pages of notes because she's got no life, just like the rest of us. But so why don't we talk about that? So what did you see in there that's the same as previous Mass Effect games? What did you see that's new and different? What are you excited for? What can we expect?
I have a list. I have a list I made from
nice. Lists are good.
Yeah, and it's really my notes I've been taking because I've been trying to work on my writer's backstory. I usually do that before whenever games like that come out, like I did with Dragon Age Inquisition. But Overload is coming back, which is probably what a lot of people already know, but one of the things we did learn from the new gameplay demo is now you can charge Overload, and it'll chain to at least 2 other enemies as well. And it's classified as a tech power. Let's see, we also have,
and that'll probably be after a couple of upgrades, right? Like, so...
Yeah, probably.
Overload.
That would make the most sense.
They had a skill tree, or a tech tree, as opposed to... Now, I've only played the first Mass Effect, where it's basically you're just leveling up individual skills. But it looked like Andromeda had more of a skill tree, where you unlock a certain skill, and then that opens up other skills kind of thing. Is that correct? Am I right about that?
It's a lot like Mass Effect 3, but I think they might have tweaked it a bit. But from what I could tell, it was mainly like Mass Effect 3. The skill trees from Mass Effect 3.
All right. So they're keeping some stuff the same, and but
which is really good. And I really want to point this out that they've moved, in the direction of, improving combat overall and really improving the feel and the look and the experience of the game. But they've kept those core elements from the previous games very solidly intact. So I'm really, really happy about that, because that means that it's not going to feel like a game that's foreign to me. It's going to feel really, really, really familiar, which I think is a very good thing.
It's just there's... Oh, I was just gonna say, it's like there's been several new games that came out in 2016 that they were supposed to be better than their predecessors, but still a sequel to the game series, but they didn't feel like the previous games at all. They felt like something completely and utterly different, and it was strange and icky. I didn't like it.
Deus Ex Invisible War was like that. The original Deus Ex was amazing, and it had this you'd have these biotic enhancements or these cybernetic enhancements that you'd level up and choose which ones you wanted and that kind of thing. And it was a little complicated to get your head around at first, but they really dumbed it down in the second game, and they made it more of just sort of a standard shooter, and people really didn't like that.
I can understand that.
And I liked how the prototype mods were in the one game were better than the standard shipped products in the previous game. That's why sequels and that's why prequels are a whole lot of messy.
Prequels are tough, because the technology gets better and you can do more stuff in the game, but then
they don't.
You're previous, in the timeline, you're previous to the other game.
Yeah, and it's
why is there better technology in the past? What the hell happened there?
Yeah, no, that's why I'm really glad that we didn't see a prequel to the Mass Effect series, because it's carry things forward, guys. And I really hate the Star Trek. Well, actually, Star Wars did it too. I really hate the Star Trek stupidity when it comes to that concept of putting things hey, let's go backwards in time because that will fix all our problems.
And then it'll be an alternate timeline where actually everyone dies. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
That'll make everybody happy. Yeah, I hated that too.
Can they just stop reinventing movie worlds with alternate timelines? Just reboot it. Seriously.
Yeah, there's just
just do it differently.
Yeah.
If you want to make a different series of events, just make a different series of events. Don't try to be this old series of events is still valid, but we're doing a new series of events, and they both are contradictory, but they're both valid because there was this change in the timeline, but both timelines still exist, and these, so now we have two Spocks.
As a writer, okay. I see that as a cowardly cop-out as a writer myself. I want everyone to be happy because their world still exists. It's still okay. No, it's not. Just stop. No, no more.
You could still enjoy the original Star Trek series.
Yeah,
even if they completely, reinvented it in the new movies and remade a new timeline. And you'd have a few people saying, Kirk didn't do that.
Well, it's kind of like and I really want to get back onto the Mass Effect thing, but I do want to point out that they did that whole thing with the Klingons. Hey, the Klingons look like this, in the 1970s show, which we didn't have all that big of a makeup thing for, and then we made them look really cool in the later games. But we feel the need to explain why that happened instead of just saying, look, it was, use your imagination. That's what we had to do back in the 60s and the 70s. We didn't have the budget for amazing CG. Doesn't mean that that something necessarily needs to change a ton, and that's what I think we're seeing here with this game, and why I'm so happy with the direction that Andromeda is taking right now, because they aren't feeling that need to try and like they're saying, okay, let's just go to a new galaxy. That'll solve the vast majority of our current problems with the story and the timeline and all that stuff. We'll just go to a new galaxy. And yes, that means that you don't have a lot of the same characters coming back from other games, but you could still have the same people, you still have the same races, and then you can add a whole bunch of new and not have to step on the toes of the previous invention. And so I think that's brilliant, and I'm really glad that they're doing that. So with the tech tree and all that stuff, I think that this new and improved combat is definitely the way to go. I'm really, really happy. It's a very solid experience, I think. So yeah, we'll see where it kind of goes from here, but I honestly think that we're going to be seeing some pretty cool stuff coming here in the next couple of months.
Yeah. Way off topic, well, sort of, but when I'm out at the lake during the summer, and it gets super, super dark at night because there's just no artificial lights around, I love taking out my binoculars onto the dock and looking at the Andromeda galaxy, which you can see. You can just see with an ordinary pair of binoculars if you know where to look, and it's a pretty surreal experience. I mean, like, holy fire truck, that's a galaxy I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm. I'm lucky. I get to see that every night because I live out here in the middle of nowhere. There's no light pollution, so I pretty much get to see that every night. We have a really powerful telescope that we use to see whenever planets are available to be seen.
Oh yeah, I am slightly jealous. I have a telescope, but it's got the crappiest stand, so I mean I can't stay focused on a single object to save my life, but I did manage to take a picture of Saturn through it, and that was pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, so Andromeda. Well, it's exciting because just the type of world they create in the Mass Effect games, and I mean, as I said, I've only played the first one, but I'm already blown away, and it's already in my top 5 of like the best games that I've ever played. And it's the game that, I dreamed of playing when I was a kid, long before the technology to make it possible was available. But I used to play this really old DOS game called what's it called? Star Control 2 was what it was called. Sequel to Star Control 1, which was just like a ship arena fighting game. But then in the second one, they expanded it.
One quick note on that. Do you see any correlation of story between Mass Effect and Star Control?
I don't really remember the story. All I remember is that they expanded
the
expanded to the story.
The ancient alien race that disappeared and left all this cool technology sitting around. Yeah, that's the trope I was referring to.
Oh, okay. See, I don't remember that. I just remember being able to travel around the galaxy to these different planets and things, and you'd encounter these other species, and sometimes you'd trade with them, or sometimes you'd fight with them. And it was just so awesome. And so when I playing getting into Mass Effect and the first time, when you get put in command of the Normandy, and it's like, oh, and you're a Spectre now, and you don't answer to anything. And it's like, you can go anywhere and do anything, and you're in control of this crew, and you've got all these people with you, and it's like, this is the best thing ever. And I'm told the second one's even better, so I am looking forward to that. Yeah, the
second one's my favorite.
Philly D even said you don't even need to play the first one, but I don't know. I'm really enjoying the first one, and I'd be missing out on this story, I think.
Yeah.
If I just jumped right into the second one.
I mean, there's this thing called Mass Effect Genesis between the first and second, and the second and third. There's Mass Effect Genesis and the Mass Effect Genesis 2, and it's this Dark Horse-style comic book retelling of the first and second Mass Effect that you can do, where you pick the main 4 or 5 choices, and it fills in the gap, and it allows you to make the choices and upload that to your next character if you didn't play Mass Effect 1 or Mass Effect 2. And it's really cool looking. I got to see it for the first time the other day. It's really neat, actually. And I just used it because I wanted to see it, because Dark Horse comics are so cool. And so It's just not the same, though. It's just not the same as playing the first game. And there's actually a lot you miss out on, because there's a lot that carries over, like the smaller missions, which is, I think, amazing, that there's all these smaller missions you could do and choices that carry over to the next game or so, that you actually get to see more effect of if you do them in the first game and carry it over. So,
Yeah.
I think it makes a difference.
Like the plant world. Just, so
With
good.
that mind
And Conrad
controlling...
Werner. He's my favorite. He breaks the fourth wall so much.
So, all right. So, what else did we see in the this CES trailer?
The loot system. We briefly talked about it earlier on, but the loot system. There's going to be you walk up to bodies and check it. I don't know if that just is going to check everything at the end of all combat. I hope not, because I really do love that. That going up to each body, checking it, because it's like a little goodie box that you get to look at each time, and especially if you cut it open with a big old butcher knife, and it's all these goodies in there. I'm not crazy, and I'm not a psychopath. But still,
it'd be so perfect if you did that in a Zevran voice. Just so perfect.
If my voice were feeling a little bit better, I would.
I could try it in my ghoul voice.
I'm
other not thing a psychopath. I swear.
You sound like you really need a throat lozenge. I can't remember what it's called.
I also need a plastic surgeon's skin.
So wrong. Yeah. What was that? Oh yes, so the classes, the profiles, or what they're calling them now.
Oh yeah, profiles as opposed to classes.
This is the one thing in my notes here that I was like, oh, so apparently they're capable of being biotics by choice. It doesn't matter if you're starting profile as a soldier, you have the ability to become a biotic. This is really interesting, and it does fit in quite well with the story and the tech and all that. It makes considerable sense that it would be that way. But BioWare pulled a trick on us, because in the video there, they kept all the biotic classes grayed out when they were going over the list of all the available classes to rank up in. So then I was like, oh, so is there going to be a choice, or what's going on here? Why are these ones grayed out? Why didn't they include that? So, but we're pretty sure, Jamie, you're right. We're pretty sure that you're going to be able to pick and build your class out of all of the existing classes, and then kind of mix and match your kind of like your main abilities from all of the other classes, right?
Yeah, from what the analyzing that I did, that's what I think. And there's always a possibility that from the gameplay demo that we saw, just maybe that person didn't want any biotic abilities in their playthrough, and they just didn't pick any. I mean, if our theory is correct and you actually get to pick multiple of them, maybe that person just didn't pick any biotic ones in particular.
I wonder if because it does seem a mix and match sort of scenario does seem to make sense based on what we saw there, because the profiles. By the way, if anyone has no idea what we're talking about, I'll put a link to the video down in the description so you can watch it yourself, and you'll have a better idea of what we're talking about. But the profiles, the fact that they're calling them profiles instead of classes, is when you think of a class in a traditional RPG, think of something like you pick this at the beginning. That's what you are through the whole game. But it's possible that maybe Joe Paladin, took some lockpicking classes and there's a little rogue business going on the side or something.
Or it's like a D&D thing where he wanted to multi-class. I'll be a bard and a rogue.
And I really can't. And I can't stress this enough, because they've stressed it in the videos so much, is that these are they're only bringing, they're not bringing volunteers. They are bringing volunteers, but they're only accepting the best of the volunteers. to go to a new galaxy. It's not like they were like, okay, sign up and you sign the sheet, and if you want to go see a new galaxy, and I'm sure your standard list of skills will be enough. No, they're like, no, we're taking only the best, because if the war here in the Milky Way goes south, we're all screwed, and that'll be the end of the human race. So we really do need to bring the absolute best and the brightest to Andromeda, and that's what I think we're seeing here with this. And it makes sense that the Pathfinders, the core exploration team, is headed by a family who's the best of the best of the best of the best, or designed and made this way, or has these unique abilities to do all the classes and stuff like that. And then that from a narrative point that says, yeah, you do whatever you want, and I like that it's siblings that you have a choice of playing. I think that makes sense, and we saw that in Dragon Age 2, the whole siblings route, and that'll be really good. So, and of course, creepy moment of the day. There's already petitions that's tried at least once to say, hey, maybe we can have your sibling be a recruitable companion, and then maybe you can romance them. And BioWare has already again shut them down, because they had to shut that down the first time they did it in Dragon Age 2. It's like, guys, keep your creepy things to yourself.
Go back to Game of Thrones. Leave us over here.
It's called Game of Thrones. Indulge yourself over there.
I wonder if at the beginning, if you do choose whether or not you're going to be a biotic, or if there's some sort of choice of specialization that you pick, like this is what the direction you chose to go with your career. And
I mean, make no mistake, I'm all for doing lots and lots of completionist stuff, but when it comes to class type based games, at most I'll mix 3 classes in, and there's a couple classes that I'll probably never ever touch, and that's just the way that I prefer to play my playstyle. Is I prefer to become a master of this 1 or 2 classes, and then if I can kind of combine those 2 together, that's even better. So I'll be very hopeful that that's what we get to do here, and I'll be looking forward to that for sure. So
yeah, from Dragon Age Inquisition, we have the fact that there's going to be forwarding bases, kind of like how you set up bases for the Inquisition out in the hinterlands and things like that. There's going to be that. And the dialogue is going to be very familiar, because the dialogue options are now exactly like Dragon Age Inquisition. And Renegade and Paragon options aren't going to be quite as clear as they were before, which might become a little awkward, but I'm not sure that Paragon and Renegade are going to be quite as important in Mass Effect Andromeda.
So it's not going to be like, I am going to arrest you and make you stand trial, versus I am going to murder your face because you deserve it, and I take justice into my own hands.
Punches the interviewer.
So obvious, I'm going to get Paragon points for this, or I'm going to get Renegade points for this. I was surprised by something that I got Renegade points from. I agreed to kill some crime boss or something, and I got Renegade points for it. I was like, what? Okay, weird.
That's taking justice into your own hands, which is kind of funny, because I thought the whole point of you
becoming an inspector
was the ability to take justice into your own hands. It's like, well, I've found you guilty of murder and kidnapping. You are now sentenced to death, because I'm not going to drag you back to a cell when I've got a world or a planet to save here. You're just getting in the way. So unfortunately, justice is served. From what's that old? Darn it. There's an old 1940s detective reference about justice is served from the barrel of a gun. I can't remember it. My goodness. Anyways,
Fallout style justice.
Here. Yes, Fallout justice. That's what we meant.
That's perfectly well.
Anyways,
there was one thing that I'm a little worried about that I really hope they don't do. Oh well, never mind. I just count myself out, because I already talked about the fact that loyalty missions are coming back. They aren't quite as important, but they're still gonna be really cool. So it's not gonna be like, it doesn't matter, they're not gonna die or stay alive due to whether or not they're gonna be loyal, so I'm not gonna do them. So, I mean, they're still gonna be really cool. So you're gonna do them because they're awesome and you get to learn more about your companions.
So, the loyalty missions, is that...
Me and Ash had a we had a bit of an argument about this the other day, with the concept of the loyalty missions. My argument was that it made sense to me that if I'm on a mission to save the world, that I'm going to spend a lot of time, not a lot of time, but like I'm going to make sure that the people I'm traveling with are going to have my back in the worst case scenarios because we're probably going to enter them. And what were you saying? Is like, why would they be important? Why would I have to worry about just investing time into my companions?
No, it was more that I didn't realize that was an important aspect of the game, or that was a mechanic in the background that, tracked your companion's loyalty to you or how much they trust you, kind of thing. So it's kind of a surprise when suddenly, I can't reason with this guy, and so my other companion has to shoot him in the back of the head because he's about to mess up the entire mission. And so it just surprised me. And what you're saying makes sense. And knowing that now, I think it's a great thing that they have in the game. So, it was just more...
It did screw you over royally, though, didn't
it?
It screwed me over royally, just not being aware it was there, and so it was a hard lesson learned. Because, in a lot of games, there's something... In some games, that stuff just doesn't matter. It's like, whatever. You can talk to these people and learn about them if you're curious about it. There's so much in Mass Effect that just doesn't matter. I shouldn't say doesn't matter. It's all great stuff. Like, you can read the in-depth descriptions of, like, every planet you encounter. They all have unique backstories and things, or you can look into your codex.
What you're saying is that you're not necessarily, like...
They're not... It even says right in the game, it's not essential information as far as the game itself goes. It's just stuff that's there if you're interested in reading it and, having a better, more full picture of the world. And it's interesting stuff, like, the history of all the different races and these conflicts and things that happened, and I do look at some of that stuff. I'd spend probably more hours reading than actually playing the game if I looked at all of it, but...
I feel like we've gone over this before. If you remember the Let's Lore episode.
The Dishonored stuff, like Dishonored has that too. Like, there's books upon books. Not nearly as much, but there's just books everywhere.
I would know.
But it's like the books in Skyrim. It's like, do I really need to read the lusty Argonian maid?
Yeah.
Like,
I just like
time.
I just open it up, see if it gives me a skill point, and then close it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I did too.
Oh, I glanced at this book, and now I'm better at cooking with herbs. Oh, fantastic! Again,
I can just imagine how that looks from the outside. Somebody opens a book, they close it, they throw it over their shoulder and walk away. I'm good. This is all I need. It sounds like, why did they just buy that book? I don't understand.
What'd you do today? I went to the library and got my PhD. I just, you just open the cover of each book. It's fantastic. What did you do today? I accidentally picked up a bowl in a shop, and now all the guards want to kill me.
I was gonna say, it's like, I adhere to the laws of physics and society where I actually read the books.
Yeah, it's great when game worlds have that stuff in them, but yeah, so it was a hard lesson learned that, actually talking to these people, they'll eventually give you quests, and that builds their trust in you. I didn't realize that, and also, I think it might have, if I had chosen...
You also get to bed them, too. Did you know that? Have you
Only 3 of them.
Have you encountered that yet? Yeah?
Only 3 of them.
Yes. I know there's that romance aspect, but I kind of went let's wait till, after we save the universe and then see what happens.
I was so disappointed that you couldn't have a threesome with the Asari, Ashley, and the male shepherd. That's just.
Did you say you're disappointed that you can't have a threesome?
No. Well, I mean, it's one of my favorite lines from the male shepherd, and Ashley is like, we could. She's like, not on your life. Or she's like, just shuts him down hard, and I was like, yeah, that's probably the way it would go.
I flirted with everyone on the ship, and then I ended up romanced with someone I didn't mean to be romanced to, and then I ended up doing things, and I'm like, crap, this was not the plan.
Well,
so yeah.
The worst for that was what was it? Dragon Age 2, I think, was the worst for that. It was like, hey, let me tell you my backstory, and it's like, my answers are, screw off, or okay, tell me about your family. And then the next thing I know is I'm waking up in bed with this guy, and I'm just like, how did this happen? Like, I was just being nice to him. I was just hearing his story out, and then suddenly, wow. So yeah, they improved that functionality a little bit more in the latter games, and hopefully you won't run into random adventures, I guess you'd say.
No
Random
accidental
adventures.
Sex.
Yeah.
Accidental interspecies coitus, yes.
Oh, hey, did you know the original iPhone came out 10 years ago this week? Or it was announced 10 years ago as of a couple days ago. That's when Steve Jobs said those immortal words. Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything.
Yep.
And geez, can you...
I remember, what was it, 12 or 11 years ago, that some very dumb person from a company called Blueberry, Raspberry?
Raspberry?
Blackberry. About 11 years ago, some guy from a company called BlackBerry said that they had elevated the cell phone technology to the highest pinnacle that it would ever reach, and that there really was no other directions for phone technology and cell technology to move in. That basically the height of evolution had now been reached. I remember that one. That was so funny. I laughed my butt off for weeks.
People will say anything to sell a product.
It's hard to imagine life prior to smartphones at this point. And yet
I've never had a smartphone a day in my life, so I have no idea.
Well, how did you play Pokemon Go?
I stole my mom's phone.
Emulators.
Oh,
I wish an emulator would work. I tried. I looked.
Oh yeah, they have a real hard time working, don't they? Because of all the yeah, I remember that. No, that makes sense. I do remember that. They did not. I read that on a couple of my emulator patch notes. They're like, oh, hey, this one's specifically designed to work with Pokemon Go and not get you banned. It's like, wow, I didn't know that was a thing to worry about.
Did you guys ever see the Smosh did a honest game trailer for Pokemon Go? Did you ever see that?
I think I did, because I know I've watched a lot of those. I can't remember. In fact, I'm going to look that up.
It's hilarious. Real life features high-def graphics and an unforgiving permadeath system.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm definitely watching that.
It's hilarious. Go watch it. Their honest game trailers are great. I think that about does it for us for this week. Thanks so much for joining us, Jamie. You can check out Jamie Catalyst's channel. I'll put a link in the description down below.
Like and subscribe.
Please.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. As far as Obsidian and myself, you can always find us right here on the SSS League channel. Got lots of great stuff coming in the future, and can't wait to dive into Andromeda. It's gonna be lots of fun. All right, so thanks so much for listening once again, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
See ya.